Thank you very much for joining our webinar today. We are going to be talking about the SBA COVID Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. We'll cover the application process and also how to apply for reconsideration. Today's webinar does not have chat capability. However, if you do have questions, please drop them into the Q&A box and we will be happy to address those. And just to get started, the overall purpose, of course, of the COVID Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program is to bring business owners back up to pre-pandemic levels of operation. This program is designed to provide working capital so that small business owners can not only kind of keep their doors open, but also have the working capital that they need to keep their people paid, keep inventory replenished, and those types of things. Small business owners, agricultural businesses, and nonprofits located in the U.S. or U.S. territories can apply for this loan. And it is important to keep in mind that this loan cannot be used for expansion. It is not meant to enhance or expand a business. It's designed, again, to bring businesses back to pre-pandemic levels of operation. I just want to talk quickly about the benefits of this program to small business owners. This is the remaining COVID recovery option that's available through the SBA. And it's great for small business owners because it, well, of course, brings them back up to pre-pandemic levels of operation, but it also has very generous terms. It has a 3.75% interest rate or 2.75% interest rate if you're a nonprofit. It has a 30-year term, and the payments are deferred for 2 years after the signing of the note. Please note, though, that interest does still accrue, but you will not be receiving any statements or need to make any loan payments for the first 2 years. With that is this reduced repayment burden because you have 2 years of deferment. You have relatively smaller monthly payments versus some of the programs that you can get out on the open market. Basically, if you have a $10,000 COVID EIDL loan, the monthly repayment works out to be less than $50 a month. So the SBA does try to make everything as affordable as possible for these programs. It has very flexible use of proceeds. You can use the funds on any normal operating expenses and working capital. Again, that's things like buying inventory, payroll, and they've also increased the use of funds now to be able to pay existing business debt, to prepay existing business debt, and you can also use the funds to make your regularly scheduled payments of other federal debt. Now, you cannot pay off existing federal debt with the EIDL proceeds, but you can be making your regular scheduled payments of federal debt. So just an important thing to keep in mind there. The application process is online. It's very streamlined, and we'll go through what this looks like here in just a few minutes. The important thing to keep in mind with this program is that it is obtained directly from the SBA. You do not have to go to a bank or another lending institution for this. It is the only direct SBA loan that's available right now. And again, for those that just joined us, if you do have questions during today's webinar, please do go ahead and enter those into the Q&A box so that we can address them as they come up. Just wanted to give a brief update on the credit score and collateral requirements for the COVID EIDL program. If you are borrowing up to $25,000, there is a minimum credit score, and that is 570. You do not have to pledge collateral for loans up to $25,000. If you're borrowing over $25,000 up to $500,000, the same as the minimum credit score is 570. And on collateral, we don't necessarily take collateral, but there is a UCC1 legal filing on business assets. So basically, this is a one-time $100 fee that the lending institution or that the creditor, so in this case, the SBA, uses to file an interest on the business assets for your business. If you are borrowing over $500,000 all the way up to $2 million, the minimum credit score does raise a little bit. It is 625. And in these loans, we do the filing on business assets, and you'll be using your business real estate as collateral. So no personal real estate is ever used for collateral on these programs. It's always your business real estate on loans over $500,000. And again, I just included that kind of brief definition of UCC1 filings there so everybody knows what that is. As I mentioned before, the application process is very streamlined. The most important thing to keep in mind for this is when you go to the website, please make sure you are reading all of the information on the website before you apply. There's a ton of great information that's available to you on the website right here. There's also a frequently asked questions, which is really extensive. So chances are if you do have a question, it is already addressed in there. And then you can also go through the application checklist, which is basically walking you through the application process so you know what to expect once you get online. And you can see there is the link. And don't worry about writing these down because I'll say in the end, if you email me, I can send you a copy of these slides that will include these links for you. So that's the application process there in a nutshell. And again, cannot stress enough, go to the website. There's tons of information there for you. Couple of application tips for you, and these are things that we've learned from questions that we've received from folks calling in over the last year and a half. So hopefully this will really help streamline your application and get it processed more quickly. Big thing I want to mention right off the bat is this program does end December 31st of this year, or when the funds are exhausted, whichever is sooner. There are remaining funds in the program. However, lots of applications are in the pipeline, so we don't know how long that money will last. So do get your application in ASAP. One of the most important tips when you are doing your application, make sure that you are double and triple checking everything. Don't mistype your email address. It sounds like it would be a really easy thing to just call customer service and say, hey, I need to change my email address. It isn't. It requires a good deal of behind the scenes work in order to get that email address changed. So please triple check, make sure you're typing your email address in correctly. If at all possible, use the same email address throughout the application and the funding process. If you can, if you need to, create a Yahoo account specifically just for the application process, do that. Again, updating the email address can take significant processing time. Same thing with your bank account information. When you're entering that into the application, triple check, make sure the routing number is correct, make sure the routing number and the account number are correct. It is very difficult to get that information updated if you do mistype it, so please keep that in mind. Another issue that some folks have run into is that they have their credit frozen because of all of the fraud that's going on with just the pandemic in general. So they'll have their credit frozen, and then when the SBA goes to pull it, when you apply, they're not able to pull it. So it just goes through delays and you trying to unfreeze it and get back a hold of customer service. So before you apply, do please have your credit unfrozen. Another reminder, when you're going through this application, do a screenshot of each page or a printout of each page of your application if you ever want to reference it in the future. You can obtain a copy of your original application, but you do have to go through the FOIA request process for that, which can take some time. So if you think you might need it for reference later on down the road, screenshot it or print it out so that you have it. Also super important, of course, do not lose or forget your portal password. You can get it reset, but we've had callers that have had some issues with this. So if you can, just keep it in a safe place, don't lose it, and don't forget it. And I've said this already multiple times, but make sure you read the website and the FAQ before you apply. You don't want to get in the situation where you are applying and have a question and then you can't get a hold of anybody for an answer. So easiest if you just read it before and then get your questions answered before. Please call customer service if you have questions, or definitely reach out to your local district office. We try very hard to help everybody to answer questions, to be able to look into your existing application and try to see what's going on if it's delayed. So please feel free to reach out and contact us. If you apply and are declined for whatever reason, there is a reconsideration request process for your economic injury disaster loan. It's relatively easy to do. You are going to submit your reconsideration request to pdcrecons@sba.gov, that email address right there. You can also mail in your request. Strongly encourage that you don't do that, as that will be some significant processing delays. Please do over email if you can. Another thing to keep in mind, whenever you are emailing customer service, make sure that your application number, and in this case, request for reconsideration, is in the subject line of your email. They get literally thousands upon thousands of emails a day, and so this helps them kind of keep everything straight. This is the basic documentation that you will need to include in your EIDL reconsideration request. Basically, in the email that you're sending, you're going to be providing a short narrative of why your application should be reconsidered. When you get declined for the loan, you should be receiving an email that's going to give you the reason that it was declined. Sometimes the reasons are either a little bit difficult to understand, or it will just simply say unverifiable information, that type of thing. If that happens to you, please call the district office. We can help you try to decipher what information is actually missing or what information needs to be verified. In that narrative, then, you are addressing whatever that case may be, and providing information as to why you are an actual business, or here's the information you need to verify. You're just basically responding to the declination letter. You also need to always include a copy of your government issued ID. So this could be your driver's license or your state ID. You also want to include a copy of a voided check. Very important, make sure the voided check is for the bank account that's listed in the application. I've had lots of calls where this has become an issue and it just further delays the processing time. So make sure that the check matches up with the bank account that you used in the application. Another thing that you'll most likely be asked for several times is a completed and signed copy of the IRS Form 4506T. And this is showing the current date, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that here in just a minute. So that's all I'll say about that for now. And then also include a 2202 Schedule of Liabilities form. This is basically a snapshot of your current financial situation. So it's just a listing of the business and personal loans that you are paying on a revolving basis. And we'll talk again about that later on. Important takeaway from this slide is, if you don't understand why you were declined, contact your local district office. We will try to get into your file and help you figure out what the issues are. If you want to increase your existing COVID EIDL loan, you can do that one of two ways. You can log into your existing portal account, and there should be a blue request increase box. You can just click on that and follow directions. You can also send an email to COVID EIDL increase requests at SBA.gov. You can have multiple increases until you hit your maximum eligibility. We have had lots of calls where people are calling in and saying that they don't have the blue request increase box. If you don't have that when you log in, you can do it via email, again, to COVID EIDL increase requests at SBA.gov. One of the possible reasons that you wouldn't have the increase request box is that you might have already hit your maximum eligibility. So you can call us or call customer service to inquire about that as well. But that's typically the reason that we see why people don't have that request increase box. And again, when you are requesting an increase, include your application number and the words EIDL increase in the subject line of your email. Here's a list of the documentation that you need to include in your increase request, very similar to what you are putting in your reconsideration request. It's a short narrative in the email about why you need the additional funds. You need to put in supporting documentation for the increase. Typically, this could be some profit and loss statements, revenue projections, that type of thing. Again, the copy of your government issued ID and a copy of the voided check, same thing, needs to be for the proper bank account that was in the application. A completed and signed copy of the IRS Form 4506T. Even if you already submitted one with your initial application, submit it again with the current date. And then also they will ask you for that Form 2202, the Schedule of Liabilities. So hopefully relatively easy process. And again, you're just attaching all of that to the email that you're sending to COVID EIDL increase requests. For those of you that are new applicants to the EIDL program, if you meet certain criteria, you might be eligible for up to $15,000 in funding that does not need to be repaid. This is basically a kind of a grant, for lack of a better word. To be able to receive these advances, you do have to apply for the COVID EIDL. Keep in mind, though, if you are applying and you don't have any interest in getting a loan, you're just trying to get the targeted advance program grant, you still have to apply. If you are approved for the COVID loan, you don't have to take it, or you can take some amount of it, but you don't have to take the full amount or any of it if you don't want to. If you're declined for the actual loan portion, you might be able to still get that grant. So approval of the loan is not, receipt of the grant is not contingent upon approval of the loan, if that makes sense. There are two grants that are still out there right now, two advances. There's the targeted EIDL advance grant. This is up to $10,000. And again, this money would not have to be repaid. There are 3 criteria in order to be eligible for this loan. You must be located in an IRS designated low income area. And there's a mapping tool that's available on our website where you go in, click on the mapping tool, you enter in your address, and it will tell you if it's a low income area. It's not what the state defines as low income. It's not what SBA defines. It's literally what the IRS defines as a low income area. You must also be able to demonstrate more than a 30% reduction in your revenue during an 8-week period that started March 2nd, 2020 or later. So you have to have that 30% reduction in revenue, and you must have 300 or fewer employees. So that's to qualify for the advance up to $10,000. If you get that advance, there's also a supplemental targeted advance that might be available to you, which is an additional $5,000 that you don't have to repay. And again, this is in addition to the first targeted advance that you would receive. Same kind of criteria. You must be located in the IRS designated low income area. You must be able to demonstrate a more than 50% reduction in revenue during the 8-week period. And for this one, you have to have 10 or fewer employees. So those are the eligibility requirements for the advanced programs. Getting back to the paperwork, probably 90% of the calls that we get here at the district office are related to this IRS Form 4506T. This form is very picky on what is entered in there so that it doesn't come back as rejected. The reason that it's so picky is the SBA and IRS have worked together to make kind of a scanning platform that reads these forms. So if the information that's on the 4506T form does not literally exactly match what's shown on your 2019 federal tax return, the scanning program will reject it and it will come back and you'll have to fill it out again. So very important, reference your 2019 federal tax return as you're filling out the 4506T. Has to match exactly. And I'm talking about matching levels where if your taxes say drive on the 4506T, you cannot abbreviate it DR. It literally has to be exactly as it's shown. Cannot stress that enough. On line 5A of the form, you want to make sure that U.S. Small Business Administration Office of Disaster Assistance is written there. Make sure your SBA application number is listed on line 5B. This is very important as well. Box 6C, the record of account, must be checked, just that box. You must check the signatory attest box, which is located right above your signature block at the bottom of the form. This has to be checked. Another thing to keep in mind, the signature has to be either in ink and then scanned and uploaded and sent in, or it has to be electronically signed. We've had cases where if you open the form and then you kind of draw on your signature electronically, they will not accept that. So do make sure it's either in ink and scanned or it's electronically signed. You want to make sure the form is not blurry. That's a very common reason that they are rejected. Make sure your phone number is included on the bottom of the form. Make sure the title on the signature block is exactly what's shown on your 2019 federal tax return. So on your tax returns, if you're listed as the owner, you want to put owner on the 4506T. If you're listed as president, you want to put president on the 4506T. If you don't have a title identified on your tax returns, then don't put a title on the 4506T. And then lastly, of course, you want to double and triple check the form for typos and transposed numbers. Even the smallest typo is going to result in your form being rejected. If you call the district offices, we can provide you with the current form that is accepted. So if you go online, you can find lots of these 4506T forms out there. Not everyone is the correct iteration of the form. So just to be sure, do call your district office and we can make sure that you're getting the right form. Just some quick tips on filling out the SBA Form 2202, the Schedule of Liabilities. The purpose of this form, again, is just to show your current financial health. The SBA, when giving out disaster loans, does not want to put borrowers in an even more dire financial situation. So that's why they're looking at this information to make sure that you are able to repay the loan. So you'll want to list all of your current revolving payments, and this is both personal and business. If you have credit card debt, you want to show the current balance of your credit card. It's important to note whether you're current or delinquent, and then also list your average monthly payment. You want to use the current date for the date of schedule line that's at the top of the form. And then, of course, making sure your name, date, signature, and title are on the form. This one is not as critical with the no typos thing as the 4506T is, but definitely do your best to try to make this as accurate as possible. And again, call the district offices if you have any questions on that. Just want to real quick share some very general tips for the applications. This is very important. All attachments must be in PDF format. They will not accept JPEGs. They won't accept PNGs. They won't accept screenshots. It needs to be in PDF format. The attachments must also be clear, legible, and show the whole page. We've had folks that have emailed in snapshots of just half of a page. They won't take those. It has to be the full page. I said it before, but I'll say it again. The voided check must be for the account that's used in the application. The 4506T form must be dated within the last 60 days in order to be valid. We get a lot of calls saying I've had to send in my form 4506T, 5, 6, 7 times, which is frustrating. Absolutely. But chances are it's because the form has gone out of that 60 days. So do make sure that it's within 60 days. Otherwise, it will get returned. Another extremely important thing is if you have already applied for a loan, do not apply again for the same entity. So if you're looking to get an increase, don't apply again. You need to go into your portal and do the increase through the same application that you've already filled out. If you applied and you're not sure the application actually, was submitted or whatever the case may be, don't just apply again. Call customer service, call us, we can check. You never want to apply twice. This will put you into a duplicate review status, which can significantly delay getting your funding. Again, include your application number in the subject line of all of your emails. And very importantly, please keep in mind that the customer service agents are getting quite literally thousands and thousands of emails a day. So it's very important that you are very clear and very concise in all of your emails. You want to tell your story, but again, keep it clear, keep it concise, keep it easy to read because literally thousands of emails are being sent in a day. So enough said on that. We covered this a little bit in the beginning, but it does bear repeating. The program does end on December 31st of this year. Same thing with the loan or the targeted advance applications that will also be accepted until December 31st of this year. Any of these applications are going to continue to be processed if it's already been received before December 31st, before the deadline. When the deadline hits, if your application is still in process, it will continue to be processed up until the funds are exhausted. So that being said, don't wait until December 31st to apply. If you think you're going to need this program or you're interested in those advances, apply now, don't wait. especially for those supplemental advances. Again, do that by December 10th because that does have some processing time that's available with that. So make sure that you apply for the supplemental and the targeted advance by December 10th. So basically in just a couple of weeks here. Keep in mind, you can request increases up to your maximum eligible loan amount for up to 2 years after your loan is signed or until the funds are exhausted, whichever is sooner. So if you have had an existing COVID EIDL loan, you think you might want to increase that, I would apply for it now. Even if you think you may not need it down the road, it's better to have it and then be able to prepay it back if you don't need it, just because we've had a lot of folks get the loans, request an increase, and then pay it all back and then need more money. You can only apply once, and if you pay it off, then you can't request an increase. So do keep that in mind. And again, we're going to be accepting and reviewing the reconsideration and appeal requests up to December 31st. If you've got questions, and I do see a few in the Q&A box, go ahead and put them in there. If you're thinking about this and you have questions later, or if I email you the slides and you have questions, please email me. Email's the best way to get a hold of me. We do get tons of calls at the district office level, or district offices, so email is ideal. You can also contact us. There's our phone number, 402-221-4691. If you are in a state other than Nebraska, every state does have district offices, in some cases multiple district offices. You can just go to that website, type in your zip code, and that will give you the closest district office to you. If you do want a copy of these slides, please shoot me an email and I'm happy to send them to you. And again, if anybody has questions, go ahead and put them in the chat function. The individual that asked in the Q&A box about applying for the loan to purchase a vehicle, if you could email me that question, that would be great. I can't quite give you a firm yes or no on that. And while you're thinking of questions, I'm just going to be reading through some of these questions here. Okay, I'll go ahead and publish a couple of these. So if a company received an original $5,000 amount, yes. So if you originally received the EIDL advance under that, when it was that $10,000 form for everybody, you can submit a targeted EIDL advance or the supplemental advance, but you have to meet those 3 eligibility criteria for that. You will have received an invitation to apply. So if you think you should have received that, then definitely contact customer service and ask them about that. Again, you do have to have those 3 eligibility requirements met in order to apply for the targeted EIDL or the advance or the supplemental EIDL advance. But basically that is on top of the original EIDL advance that you already received. Yes. Okay, for this reduction in revenue question, would an income statement comparison versus the previous year be sufficient? Most likely, yes. There's no one answer for how you can best show that reduction in revenue. It is a part of the application process. My inclination would be for you to try to show that as clearly as possible, whether that's a revenue statement, an income statement, a profit and loss. There's various ways that you can show it. Another question on the EIDL advance. If you already received the EIDL advance of $10,000 and the additional supplemental last year, that is a one-time only. You can only get up to $15,000 one time under both of those advances. So if you got it last year, you are not eligible to apply for the advance again this year. It's just a one-time deal. Great questions. Okay, so this one on construction costs. So that gets a little bit tricky. It depends on what that construction is for. But keep in mind, it cannot be used to expand your business or to enhance your business. So it really depends on what those construction costs are actually for. So do feel free to email me separately and kind of go into that a little bit more. And I can try to answer that question a little bit more directly for you. And with where is our office located? We are actually located right off of 680 at 108th and Maple. However, please do note we are closed to the public because of the pandemic. Also, if you are wanting to come in and have us help you fill out the form or try to get something with your EIDL application fixed, we can't do that at the field office level. We can just look at your account. We can try to help you figure out what's going on, but we cannot make changes to your account information. We can't reset your portal password. We're very, very limited as to what we can do in the field. So quite honestly, you coming in really wouldn't be beneficial to you, because anything that you would come in for, we can try to help you with over the phone. But once we reopen, of course, we'll be at 680 and Maple. So do come to see us then, but basically give us a call instead. Any additional questions? Okay, here's a great question. If you applied for the PPP loan this year, is that different than applying for this? Absolutely. The COVID EIDL and the PPP are not at all related. So if you applied for the PPP, it makes no difference whether or not you can apply for the EIDL. So definitely apply for the EIDL if you think you are going to need it. Another great question. If you want to get a copy of this slideshow, I am happy to share it. Just email me. You'll see my email address right there on this last slide, elizabeth.yearwood@sba.gov. I'm also happy to send you any of the forms that you might need as well, or try to answer your questions on the forms as well. Any additional questions? And again, for the person that indicated if they're looking, if you could apply for the loan to purchase a vehicle, please do email me that one and I can address that one offline with you. We'll just give a couple more minutes for people to put in any questions if they have them in the Q&A box. And again, if you've got questions later on, which I'm sure you will, please feel free to email me and I'm happy to try to help. And I'm not seeing any new questions yet, so we will go ahead and end the presentation today. Again, email me. I'm happy to send you a copy of these slides or try to help you in any way possible. Just to reiterate, apply sooner rather than later. You do have up until December 31st of this year or until the funds are exhausted. Please be very careful when you're applying and don't put any typos in the 4506T form. That's basically the most important takeaways. Oh, we've got one more question popping in. Okay, so great question. Okay, so on the business that's closed, that's another one you'll probably want to talk to me offline. It depends on if you're going to be reopening or if you are permanently closed, obviously due to COVID. If you're kind of in a hiatus, then most likely yes, but if you're permanently closed, then no. So please reach back out to me separately on that one. Great question. Last call for questions. I do want to thank everybody for joining us today. Again, email me with any questions. Give us a call, 402-221-4691, or feel free to reach out to your own local district office if you are in a different state. And thank you so much for joining us. And we are going to go ahead and end the presentation. Thank you and have a great day.